Hey, everybody, it's Amy Fox with Work in Progress Texas. I am live this morning in our Facebook group, Fat Loss Secrets for Busy Professionals. I just told the group that I have come as I am. I literally woke up this morning and started to eat breakfast and do things and get ready for the holidays. And so hair is just as it is, no makeup on, but I figure like I still want to show up and be real. And this is who I am. And thank God that Zoom has a little bit of a filter to soften the edges. But I was mentioning also that I'll be going on a social media break for a couple of weeks, and it just kind of aligned with 2020 and 2022 and ending the year and entering into a new year. And it's one of those things where, businesses take the time to reflect on how things have been going in the year. They look at numbers, at stats. Like we just had a meeting for my day job last week out in Atlanta. It was fantastic. And you just took the time to reflect on what's working, what projects are you going to start doing in the new year, what successes have you met, where's your revenue stream and all of this stuff. And it was great stuff. And it's kind of like, you know what? That's no different than figuring out your health journey and your health goals. And again, allergies, Texas allergies here. I literally spend the first 30 minutes of the day blowing my nose and getting ready for the day. But really kind of thinking about your health journey in the new year honestly should be a continuation. It shouldn't be a fresh start. It shouldn't be something new. It shouldn't be a resolution, because it should be something that we're trying to focus on every single year, every single day, every single week. And obviously a new year gives you an opportunity to still reflect on the previous year and see how it was. Where did you stumble? Where did you struggle? Did you have a really hard year because maybe you had some loss? Maybe you lost a family member. Maybe you've been sick a lot this year. Like there are so many hurdles that you have to overcome sometimes in a year. And so I think my first tidbit obviously is just to literally take some time to reflect on 2022. What did that look like for you? And as I reflected on my own year, I was like, wow, we really did go through a lot. It's kind of not a shocker as to why maybe I struggled to get to some body composition goals that I had because of the things that happened along the year. Also, some choices that I could take ownership for, like, for example, alcohol consumption is something that I'm like, I want that new year to be different. Now, usually I use my birthday as kind of that reflection more so than the new year, but it's kind of like all of us get to reset at the end of the year as we jump into a new year. So that's why there's a lot of conversation about goals and objectives and what are you looking for in the new year? What did you do in the previous year? But truthfully, like there's nothing wrong with us taking some time to see like what worked well in 2022 for your health and your fitness and what didn't work well. And then maybe even take time in other ways, maybe your career, maybe even your family. I mean, David and I have marriage audits from time to time too, where we sit down and we were kind of like, hey, what's working well, what's going well, what needs to be improved upon. And really just kind of, I know it seems a little, clinical or business-like to treat your marriage like that, but it's almost like kind of opening the opportunity to talk about things honestly and not get emotional or not be upset. It's like literally a business meeting for your marriage. Well, why should it be any different for your health goals or your family or whatever else? I think it's just a really smart way to approach things. So I think my first tidbit is going to be reflect on 2022. What are you proud of? Like make sure you make a list of things that you're proud of and not just negative stuff. You obviously want to look at both sides, like what went well this year, what didn't go well, and what are you trying to do in the new year differently or continue doing or whatnot. Because there's definitely in these challenges have been a lot of people who have created some new habits that have been sustained throughout our challenges. And it's like, hey, these things are working. Let's keep doing them in the new year. So take the time to reflect. The next thing I would say, if I'm being completely honest here, we've obviously taken this week to pitch our coaching program and to say, hey, we are willing to lock people into 2022 pricing before we change some structure in the new year. There's going to be some structure changes for our business and some very exciting things. So it's kind of like I couldn't do something like this and not plant the seed out there. I know a couple of people have reached out to inquire about it. So I'm excited to talk to them. But literally considering that if you've been stuck year after year or this year in your health journey, or you're in a plateau, or you're struggling to know what to do next, consider hiring a coach. That's what David and I are here for. And we help with accountability, building the roadmap for what you need for success. Sometimes you need coaching for 6 months. Sometimes you need coaching for a few months. Sometimes you need it for longer. Everyone's a little bit different. That's why we can do it in increments. But consider, if you continue to be stuck for a long time, is it time to invest in yourself and actually hire somebody to help you? And literally, I like to call us like we're your coach in your pocket, because we've got an app and everything and access to us. So again, planting the seed there if you felt stuck and need to go to the next level with that. As the new year kicks off, my third tip is going to be, don't jump into a diet. Don't punish yourself for choices that you've made over the holiday season. Hopefully you've built some habits to know that, like, hey, indulging on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or New Year's or whatever is not that big of a deal. It's only a couple of days, but try not to extend the indulgences past those holidays. That's where we have to, like, when you hear people say get back on track, it's really more so like, hey, you did some indulging, now it's time just to go back to regular. Like, it's not back on track, it's back to regular, right? So, don't jump into a diet right away. Don't punish yourself for whatever choices you make in the next week or so. It's only another week, right? Like, the next week is not going to, you're not going to gain 40 pounds. You're not going to gain a bunch of muscle. You're not going to change your body drastically in like a week. So just remember that, right? It's kind of like you are where you are because of the choices you made all year long, not because of the holidays. So be okay with where you're at right now, and don't just punish yourself by jumping into a calorie deficit or a diet. I actually have some things that I think you should focus on first before you even consider a diet. And also, if you're looking at changing your nutrition, like really in that reflection of 2022, what things are working well for you in your nutrition plan? Do you have some things that need some enhancements? Like for me, I know that alcohol is going to play much less of a role in my life in the new year. Yes, it's been around the holidays and our anniversary, but really more so, I'm very proud of myself first, recognizing that was derailing me and really removing it. So if there's things like that in your life, that you need to consider kind of adjusting in the new year, that's something that you'd make note of, right? That's okay to have something like that. That's not necessarily a resolution, right? That's really like drawing a line in the sand and making a different decision. The next thing I would say is focus on the foundation of health. What's the foundation of health? It would be sleep and stress management, making sure you're prioritizing a bedtime, getting good sleep, monitoring your sleep, whether you've got a watch that does that, an Oura ring, or something to kind of track things if you thrive off of that kind of information. But, either way, you can still go off of how you feel, your energy levels throughout the day. There's other ways to track it if you don't have a device to do that. But sleep and stress management would be number one, because your body is not going to be able to improve itself if there's a lot of stress in your life. And so a lot of times we can't control all of that. Things can happen in our life that is out of our control, but what can you control to help monitor that? And certainly rest is going to be important there. The next thing would be hydration. Obviously, if you've had alcohol over the holidays or stuff, it's like, hey, it's time to hydrate and get your body back into its well lubricated phase, which is going to be hydration. So get some good electrolytes like the Element that we use. I can even post a link in the comment section, and make sure that you're getting enough water in throughout the day. It's crazy how water can help with energy, reducing cravings, can help you, lubricate your joints and all of that stuff. There's more to it. And obviously with our body being so much water, it's kind of like we just need to make sure we're not neglecting it. And it's very easy to neglect it. So it's like carry that water bottle with you everywhere you go, just to make sure that you can hydrate as you need. The next thing would be to focus on steps and walking. This is stuff that we've talked about. Again, this foundation is something that's not new. I've talked about it before, but just as a reminder of like, what are those things that you want to focus on when January comes around? It's like, okay, let's focus on steps, hit a step goal. That's why we focused on movement this month as a way to kind of balance the chaos of life, the stressors of life, and the indulgences that we were going to have over the holiday season. So the easiest thing is to obviously incorporate walking back into your schedule to build a routine for movement and making sure that you're getting that 30 minutes a day. That's why we kind of said 30 minutes a day minimum, because that's really a good goal for a lot of people to aim for, especially in the beginning. And then as you get used to it and see, wow, I've made time for it, I have more time for other things, that's when you can add in other things. And then the last thing would be protein. I would say you don't even have to really focus on carbs and fats at this time. When we work with clients, protein is going to be our primary focus. So because it regulates appetite, it helps with satiety, it's going to be helping you grow your muscles and nourish your body and bone density. It's literally the anti-aging secret to make sure that you're consuming enough protein and keeping your strength and keeping the muscle on your body as you age. So we're always going to say 1 gram per body weight. So I'm probably not saying that right. 1 gram per, like gram of protein per your body weight. So for example, if you're a 150-pound woman, you'd be aiming for about 150 grams of protein a day. Now it's okay to have it be 0.8 to 1 gram. Like, so we could technically say 120 to 150, kind of give yourself a little bit of a range. But I promise you, if you start focusing on protein in your meals, like especially getting them every single meal, about 30 to 50 grams every meal, it's going to help regulate your appetite in general. You will naturally eat a little bit less of carbs and fats, even though sometimes we want to make sure you're eating enough. But ultimately, if you're talking about resetting yourself a little bit in the new year after the holiday season, a protein focus is absolutely going to help with that. And because it's usually the thing that people struggle with the most, it's why it's great to focus on it by itself. So that would be sleep, hydration, walking in steps, and protein. And then the next tip after that, so that's the foundation. But once the foundation is back on track, like that's what I would focus on in January. If you're, again, kind of starting from scratch, or you're continuing on with your journey, or you feel like you've really fallen off, those are the 4 things I would focus on first. And then I would make sure you incorporate a training program. So we need to get some resistance training in on a regular basis, at least 2 to 4 times a week minimum on a regular basis. And we are going to be in the new year launching some opportunities where training programs by themselves, as opposed to like, individualized coaching. We'll talk about that more if that's something that you guys want to do with us and down the road. So, get a training program, go to the gym if you can, or create in your home gym space, figure it out. But resistance training is going to be definitely, again, the anti-aging secret, the body composition secret. We reveal in fat loss phases, we reveal what we build. So when you're focusing on protein and sleep and water and some resistance training, then when you're eating enough to fuel and grow muscle tissue and you go into a fat loss phase, that's going to reveal the muscle and all of your hard work that you've been doing. And the last tip would be, don't try to rush the process. Don't try to rush anything. If anything, this year has taught me that this is a lifelong journey. It requires patience. There are so many curveballs that are thrown at us, and there's no need to try to rush something like this. There just isn't. You can't put, it's one thing to say, like, I want to lose weight. I want to lose like 10 pounds by such and such date. It's not bad to have a goal. It's not bad to have something to aim for. But putting unrealistic expectations on things, is really, I think, what's putting a lot of pressure on people in general. It's just not necessary. And I think that's one of the reasons why, again, I speak out against dieting programs, because they try to promise you things in short periods of time, and everybody's different. Like, it takes longer for everybody. There can be decades of damage that you've done to yourself by not taking care of your health. And then putting these crazy timelines on yourself just makes it just worse. And people give up. Like, if they don't see results in 2 months, they just give up. And then it's like, well, then you're back to where you were in the beginning. Like, first off, are you doing the things that's sustainable for you long term? Or are you trying to do something that's like, not for you? I just don't like blanket suggestions to people and artificial timelines that just play against you long term. So just try to give yourself some grace when it comes to your timeline. Everybody's timeline is a little bit different. We've had some clients who took a pause from our program because they were like, man, I am not in a good headspace. And then they came back and they're like, wow, this is such a better experience. And yeah, it took them a year to kind of come around to that because of all the things that they've had to overcome. It's like, it's just not a simple answer. And there's some people who jump in and take care of their health and crush it. And then it's just a matter of making sure they don't lose that routine and those habits that they've built, and that's what we help with, right? So those artificial timelines, I hate those. So just know that what we talked about yesterday was nutritional periodization when it comes to reverse dieting, or the day before yesterday. And that's where the magic sauce is, right? It's like having a structure and a process for your phases, building phases, fat loss phases, and knowing that the timeline on all of them is different for everybody. So just don't put some crazy timelines. Like if you have a wedding in a month, you're not going to drop a bunch of weight and you're going to look like you probably can drop weight. Like I'm not saying it's impossible, but we just have to try to realize that trying to rush this health and fitness process, it's going to blow up in your face. I've never seen anyone put a timeline on something and rush something and have a good experience. Either they accomplish something and you can say like, yeah, maybe you did drop the 10 pounds, but then they gain it back because what they were doing to do that was not sustainable long term. So that's what I'm getting at, is what's sustainable long term. So I hope this little reflection for the new year is helpful. It might be either reinforcing something that you've already heard, maybe something new came about it, but I think that that's how I would approach it. And if you feel the same way, I would love to hear from you. If you feel like this was a good suggestion, hopefully it takes a little pressure off, and makes you get excited for the new year, because it's one of those things where like, you can't fail at this, and you know what? You aren't failing. You only fail if you quit. If you quit and give up, then you failed. But having some bumps in the road, some trial and error, some wins and losses, like that's not failing, that's learning. And I could say I've learned a lot myself and need to give myself a little more grace too as I approach 2023. So one of those things is going to be a social media break, resetting, reflecting on 2022 for our business, our marriage, our life, our goals, what we want to accomplish in 2023, and then execute. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the new year. I know there's a lot of things going on in the world that's overwhelming. It's easy to get stuck into the news cycle and get depressed and upset. And I think, at some point you might have to turn some of that stuff off and live in your bubble for a little bit. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's a point where you need to be aware of what's going on in the world. And there's a point where sometimes you just, for your own sanity, have to do what you do in your day-to-day with your family. And that's the main focus. So not to be oblivious, but you know what I mean? So I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a happy holiday season. We will be active in our Facebook group for the rest of the year, or for the rest of this challenge. Pardon me, but here on the YouTube channel, thank you to anyone who's watched our lives, our interviews, and I look forward to putting more content out there, long form content down the road, but we really appreciate you and hope that you've gotten value out of what we shared. So I'm going to pause the recording now, and just again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and thank you so much for watching.